Hello everyone! Welcome to the 6th lecture of ARCHLine.XP 2024 intermediate course, which will be about making upholstered furniture. Let's get started. We will create this ottoman with the 3 commands of interior smart objects, loft smart object parts, and the assembled object command. But before we start modeling, we need to see what parts the furniture is made of. It consists of 4 legs, a base, and a cushioned seating. We will make the legs with the loft command and the other 2 elements by using the smart object parts command. Let's take a look at how we can do it. First, let's create the legs. As we can see, these are particular legs, not a regular cuboid. Profiles on the top and at the bottom are different, and the whole 3D shape is slanted. I choose the smart object loft command. First, I need to specify the path. This path can be vertical or horizontal, or I can create a custom path if needed. For now, I choose vertical. I need to enter how long it should be. It will be 140 mm. Then I need to enter the cross-section profile in the second tab. I can add more than 1 profile to the path. Now I will need 2. One will be at the bottom and the other at the top. The bottom will be 30 by 30 mm, which I can specify here with the width and the height. I also need to create a top cross-section profile, which I can do here by clicking on the green plus button. I need to specify where this cross-sectional profile is located along the path. It is now set to 50%, so it will be located in the middle. Since I'm specifying the top, I'll set the slider to 100% and set the width and the height. This will be 50 by 50 mm. Then I create it with the green tick. I'm almost done with the leg. Let's take a look at the picture to see what else needs to be changed. As we can see, it has 2 vertical sides and 2 slanted sides. I can adjust this by changing the reference point of the profiles. Let's start with the top one. I click on the cogwheel and then change the reference point to the lower left. This way, the bottom left reference point is connected to the middle reference point of the bottom cross-section profile. I have to change the bottom profile too. I can switch between profiles with the blue arrow. Clicking on the cogwheel, I choose the bottom left point again. I'm done with the geometry of the leg. I select the material on the 3rd tab. This should be this Exot 03. With that done, I save it to the library using the last tab with the Save As command. Let it be called Esmeralda Leg 1. The category should be Living Room and the subcategory should be Accessorize. For the producer, we can either type our initials or leave it as it is. I accept, then place it. Let's continue with the base. I choose Interior Smart Objects Parts. With this command, we can easily create upholstered furniture elements. First, I need to specify the orientation. Let it be horizontal. In the 4th tab, I need to specify the frontal profile, which will now be the floor plan profile. The other 2 tabs are the vertical and the horizontal guides. So, on the 4th tab, I select the frontal profile 1, because as we can see, the base has edges, which I'm going to round off a bit. Then I need to enter the dimensions. It will be a 600 by 450 by 100 mm element. Finally, I will round the edges. I select the Round All Edges option and enter 10 mm. It's worth setting the surface resolution to high, especially on cushion, where the difference in the resolution will be noticeable. The only thing left is to specify the material, and I choose Cream 01. If it is not in our favorites list, we can click on the blue plus to search the library for the desired material. I save it to the library as Esmeralda Base 1. Also in the living room, Accessorize categories, I accept it and place it. The last thing is the cushion, which I'm going to make with Interior Smart Objects Parts command. Since the dimensions of the base and the cushion are almost the same except for the thickness, I don't have to start from scratch but can recall the object I just saved. Let's go to the first tab and change the thickness to 160 mm. Now I'm going to add pillow effect on the top. I can do this with the Effects tabs. I can add an effect on the top and on the bottom of the element. I can add different effects, but now I need the pillow effect. I set the padding depth to 100 mm. I can choose to add this effect to the full surface or to the specific area. Now I need the full surface. I create it with the green tick button. This element is also complete. I save it to the library with the Save As command, as I don't want to override the base. Let it be called Esmeralda Pillow 1. The category is the same as for the previous two items. I accept this and place this as well. We have the furniture elements ready. Now we need to assemble the ottoman. I can do this under Interior Smart Objects, Assemble to Object. Here I need to add the parts from the library that I have saved. So I click on the blue plus sign and select the category I saved them in, the Living Room Accessories category, and then select Esmeralda Base 1. It appears in red because I haven't placed it yet. I can do this with the green tick. I can only place a new item by clicking on the green plus. If I select an item without it, the previous item is overwritten and only the new items appears. So I always click on the green plus first and then select the new item from the library. I will continue with the leg. We just have to position it. I can determine the exact position using color coordinate systems. The relative coordinates option should be turned off so I will be able to work more accurately and will be able to enter values easily. Let's first look at the blue axis, along which we need to move it down. The value should be minus 140 mm. Along the red axis, let's move it by minus 265 mm. And along the green axis, I move it by 185 mm. This will move the first leg into position. As I said, we can add another element with the green plus. In this case, the program warns us that a new instance of this leg will be created. This is just we need. I need to move this in the right position as well. In the same way, I move it down to minus 140 mm. I just have to play with the signs for the other values. I rewrite the offset value along the red axis to positive. I finish with another leg. I click on the green plus again, then move that down to minus 140 mm. And then rewrite the green axis value to minus 185 mm. This also moves into place, and now I only need to place one leg. After the green plus button, I move the last leg down to minus 140 mm. Then along the red axis I move it to minus 265 mm. So I'm finished with the position of the legs. The last thing to do is to add the cushion seating. I click on the base and then on the plus button. Then the new element will be placed on the top of the base. I select the cushion that I have created. However, I still need to fine-tune the bottom of the cushion as it is on the original object. To do this, I click on the pencil icon. The Parts dialog appears where I can modify the properties of the cushion. I'm going to create a cushion effect on the bottom as well. The scope of this will cover the entire surface and padding depth should be 100 mm. Then I override the saved cushion with the Save button. I also modify the item in the Assembly dialog. I move this further down. I can enter values or simply click the blue arrow and push the cushion into base. Now I can save the ottoman to the library. I will accept it and place it in 3D. This completes the first piece of furniture. Now let's make a slightly more complicated chair. To do this, I'm opening a Marseille chair project. Before modeling, let's look at what parts the chair is made of. The chair consists of a quad back panel that runs the full height of the chair, a seating and two curved legs. Let's look at what is needed to make this piece of furniture. We will draw several profiles to help us with the modeling, and we have 3 photos of this chair. One of them will be very handy for us later on. To draw the shape of the backrest, I will use the first picture from the folder. It is true that it is a perspective photo, but I can easily draw the backrest around it. Let's see how you can use this in the program. I simply drag the image onto the floor plan and place it. Since the image is not scaled, I have to calibrate it. I right-click on it and select Calibrate. I know the dimensions of the chair, therefore the height, which is 1170 mm. I select the bottom point, enter the top point and then write in 1170 mm. That way I have a true-to-scale photo and can easily work with it. I'm going to draw the profile in 2D. I will use the drafting polyline tool to draw around the backrest, or more precisely, just one side of it. Since we need a symmetrical profile, I will mirror the half profile I drew next to it. I find the center of the backrest using the midpoint between 2 selected points option. I specify the 2 points so I can start drawing from the midpoint. First, I draw a horizontal line. Then, I select the arc on the top. Draw a tiny arc and continue with a straight line until the cushion. From here, I will continue with the leg part, which I will draw with the smooth option and then the arc command. This way, I will be able to draw the line in a nice tangential way. I click down at the button, then turn off the smooth option and draw the bottom horizontal line. I'm going to do an arc again. Then I just need to get back to the center of the back with a straight line. I use the auxiliary line to help me with this, and then press Enter to finish the command. I have to mirror the drawing next to it. I select the polyline, then the rotate market. I find the option Mirror a Copy. Specify the axis of the mirroring and the backrest profile is completed. I select the 2 polylines and place a copy next to them. The next profile will be the area of padding. If we look at the 3D, we can see that the chair has much thicker pillow effect at the top than at the bottom. So I have to specify that as a separate area. That's what I'm going to draw for now. The easiest way to do this is to make another copy of the backrest profile and then draw a horizontal line where the pillow effect ends. I then use the Delete Between Points command to delete the bottom lines. It is complete. The next is the seat profile. We know that the seat surface is 500 by 500 mm, so I'm going to create a rectangle that size. I draw a rectangle, then rewrite its dimensions to 500 by 500. I click on one of the nodes and select the fillet command. I just click on the other nodes and they will be rounded as well. The seat profile is now finished. The next will be these two vertical profiles, which will give the backrest and the legs their vertical guides. I use the arc to create the two profiles. The first will be 1170 mm high. I adjust the radius to get a similar result as the profile above. In the same way, I will make the profile of the legs. This will have a height of 350 mm. Now that we have finished drawing the profiles, we can start making the furniture elements. In the interior, Smart Objects, I create the legs by loft. First, I enter the path of the leg by pressing the star button. I can then select the custom profile I just drew. By clicking on the Select an item in the Options menu, I can easily select the line that I have drawn. The custom path is now created. I still need to specify the cross-section profiles. Here again, I will use the two profiles. There will be a bottom and a top one. First, I specify the top, which will be 50 by 50 mm square profile. I can choose any other profile, but the current one is just fine for now. I add another cross-section profile with the green plus sign. As before, I need to set where the new profile should be placed on the path. It will be at the bottom, so I set the slider to 100%. The size of this should be 10 by 10 mm. I create it with the green tick. Finally, I need to choose a material. Let it be Exot 03. Next, I save it to the library under the name Marseille leg in the dining room category. I accept and place the leg. The next element will be the seat. I can do this on the Interior Smart Objects Parts. I'm going to set its position to horizontal, and I'm going to select the Front View Profile tab, which in this case will be the floor pan profile. I'm going to set the custom profile that I just drew. After the star button, I select the inner point of the closed loop and simply click inside the shape. The object is created. On the first tab, I'm going to specify the dimensions of the profile, which is 500 by 500 mm. I'm going to set the thickness to 100 mm. I round the edges, but not all of them equally, so I give the values separately. The side and the front rounding are 20 mm, but the back panel will only have a 10 mm rounding. I also set the high surface resolution here. I choose the Cream 01 material, which I've used before. Next comes the pillow effect. I choose the top part and then make a 50 mm padding covering the entire surface. I create it with the green tick. The seat is done. I save it to the library under the name Marseille pillow in the dining room parts subcategory. I place this one next to the leg. Now all that's left is the backrest, which is a slightly more complicated shape, but we will be able to model it very easily. I'm going to do that with the Smart Object Parts command. The orientation will be now vertical. I can specify the object's horizontal and vertical guide and its frontal profile. Here I will use the last two. First, I'm going to specify the frontal profile, which is going to be a custom. So I'm going to press the star icon and I'm going to select the inner point of the closed loop and click into the profile. This gives me the shape, but I also need to specify the vertical guide, which will be the curved profile I drew last. I define Custom Profile again and click on the Select an Item command to select the arc. Then I press Enter to accept. I've got the curved shape. By the way, if it would be curved horizontally, I could set in the horizontal guide tab. On the first tab, I need to set the dimensions. The width of the profile is 430 mm and the thickness is 40 mm. That's it. I don't need to, and I also can't adjust the height of the profile as it is given by the profile. I round the edges with the Round All Edges command and enter 20 mm. Note that since the thickness of the back is 40 mm, the rounding more than 20 mm on all sides will not work well. I set the resolution to high and set the Cream 01 material. Finally, effects can be applied. On the Thick tab, I add the pillow effect. First, I apply it to the full surface area with a 30 mm padding depth. And then I add another one by pressing the plus button. I don't apply this to the full surface, but to a custom area. After pressing the star button, I get the frontal profile of the backrest, which I will place exactly on the profile I drew. I click on the closed loop inner point of an area and click in the profile. Using the green tick mark, I create a custom pillow effect, which will have 50 mm padding depth. Finally, I create the tufting in the upper part of the backrest, as we can see it on the 3D. I click on the plus button and select the tufted effect. I also specify the radius of the padding 50 mm. Clicking on the green tick, the tufting appears. I have to move this by 50 mm to get them in the right place vertically. This completes the backrest. I save it to the library under the name Marseille back to the same category as the previous ones. And place it. Let's look at it in the 3D. We have all parts, now we need to assemble them. I choose Interior Smart Object Assembled Parts and I search library for the saved elements. Let's start with the backrest. I create it with the green tick and then add the first leg. I need to position this. Along the red axis, I move it by 200 mm to the right. Along the green axis, by minus 400 mm. I add the second leg with the plus button and adjust that into position as well. I rewrite the value along the blue axis to 0. Along the red axis, I move it by minus 200 mm. The last step is to rotate the left leg around the right blue axis by 180 degrees. I'll add a new element with the plus button and then select the pillow. Let's look at the positions. The red axis value should be 0, so it will be centered. I also need to drag it back along the green axis. I'll do this graphically. I can use arrows to fine-tune the position. Let's get back to the legs. I will adjust them along the green axis both in value and graphically. Finally, the position should be minus 510 mm. I rewrite this value for the other legs as well. This completes the assembly of the chair. All that's left is to save it to the library. Let's call it Marseille chair and save it in the dining room category in the chair subcategory. Lastly, I will show you how to modify a component of the finished furniture. To do this, I activate the floor plan window, select the furniture, and then enter its properties using the pencil icon. Let's change the curve of the backrest, for example. To do this, I click on the pencil icon, then in the Parts dialog I select the Vertical Guide tab and click on the pencil again. I place it on the floor plan, then simply select the top endpoint and move it backwards. I accept it with Enter. I override the backrest and then the finished furniture with the modified backrest. In the 3D, we can immediately see that the curve of the backrest has been modified. We have finished modeling the chairs. The created chair is a parametric element, meaning its components can be further edited. We can also save this element as an object, but in this case, only the overall dimensions can be modified. In the Design Center, we can find many such elements. Now I will demonstrate the difference between the two using a sofa. I enter the Design Center. Then from the Objects, Living Room and Sofa category, I placed two sofas in the floor plan view. We can see there is a two-seat sofa and a two-seat sofa fix element. The one without the fix designation is the parametric version, where we can edit the components. The fixed version is where we can only modify the overall dimensions. Let's see this in practice. I place the objects on the floor plan. Visually, there is no difference between the two. When entering the properties of the two-seater sofa, the Smart Object Assembly dialog appears, where the components can be edited. In the fixed version, we can only modify the overall dimensions. By clicking on the pencil icon, I can only modify its properties. We can save the elements to the library as a fixed object, allowing us to make minor adjustments without distortion. For example, if we increase the size to 3100 mm, the components will distort and the armrest will become wider. The advantage of the parametric element is that in such cases we can modify the individual components separately. For instance, if we want a three-seater sofa, we first move the armrest 900 mm to the right, then move the newly added seat element another 900 mm to the right and back to position it correctly. I also create a new cushion. Move it 900 mm to the right, then rotate it 350 degrees along the red axis, and finally graphically move it in the correct direction along the green axis. We will also modify the base and the backrest. I will modify the base by clicking on the gear icon. I increase the depth by 900 mm, then move it 450 mm to the right. For the backrest, I need to modify the profile by clicking on the pencil icon. I increase the thickness by 900 mm. I confirm the program's message with yes. In the Furniture Composer, I also move this 900 mm to the right. After modifying the components, we move the legs 900 mm to the right. This way we have created a sofa where components fit together without distortion by adding and modifying extra components. Finally, we save the sofa in the living room sofa category as a three-seater version. It remains editable. If we want to save it as a fixed object, we choose the Save into Design Center as Object command from the local menu. We can add the word fix to the name so we know that later that only the overall dimensions can be modified. With that, we have reached the end of today's presentation. I hope it was useful and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.